Hey everyone, Starjump Grim doing a quick audio check. Let me know how my mic is. This is a new computer setup, so I'm expecting a few issues. Let me know in chat if you're hearing me okay, if I sound okay, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you, Citizen Ninja, saying audio sounds good. 5 by 5. All right, everyone, give me 1 second and we will be live. All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hello, everybody in chat. Got all kinds of people showing up. I see VMX CEO. Hope you're well, Josh. Bingo, Impasta, Wolf, Diz, Dan Hoffman, all kinds of people, tons of regulars, some new faces I haven't seen, but thanks for all coming today and hanging out a bit. I just realized my hoodie is pretty dirty. So just a heads up, may have some technical issues this stream. I have a new computer that just landed, and whenever you get a new computer set up, what is on me? Sorry, and got it. Okay. Whenever you get a new computer set up, it's always a little bit of a challenge to get everything kind of back in its place. So that being said, new computer 9800 X3D, that new what is, I got all kinds of stuff on me. This is a post-holiday stream, apparently, everything. I just realized I should have cleaned myself up a bit. But anyway, yeah, new computer, the 9800 X3D, and 4090, soon to be replaced with a 5090. But yeah, it's smoking. I'm still getting it set up, still moving a lot of the streaming stuff over, getting a lot of the Starjump stuff set up, all that kind of cool stuff. So yeah, January 30th, obviously, for those that missed that news, new NVIDIA cards drop on the 30th of January. Probably going to be pretty hard to get, but we're going to try to land some here at at our at our office, and so I'm not sure if it'll be 5080s or 5090s, but try to get some 5090s just because of that uplift and switch it out. But I just got this machine in, has a really nice MSI 4090 in it. Machine's currently smoking. I haven't had smoking in terms of performance, doing well. It's not literally smoking, but yeah, we'll see. Ooh, what you doing with your older 4090? But I have to keep it for a while just because I need to make sure the 5090 doesn't brick out or do something crazy. But I am hoping the 5090 is a smaller form factor though, because the 4090s, these later generation 4090s, are monstrously big. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it comes in size wise. At least from the pictures I've seen, it looks a little bit smaller, but we'll see. Starjump Render Farm. Yeah, it may have to be. For those of you that don't know, I do a lot of rendering on Pixel Plow. It's a cloud-based rendering service, but being able to have a local rendering solution from time to time is kind of nice. Anyways, how have you all been doing? How was everyone's holiday? Hopefully well. I'll catch you up a little bit on Starjump stuff real quick. It's been quiet because it was the holidays, and the holiday for me is not just the week of Christmas or whatever. It's pretty much all of January or all of December, and then a little bit into January. Just focusing on family stuff, taking time off, letting the brain decompress a little bit, taking that little bit of a Star Citizen break as well, not just from playing the game, but just all things Star Citizen. but it is nice to get back to it, and that's exactly what we're doing today. As of today, we are getting back to it. Citizen Ninja says, nice, same. I'm planning to grab a 5090 and a 9800X 3D for my first DIY build here in a couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, the 9800X 3D, from everything I heard, is like the best CPU for gaming. I've looked into it as much as I could. I didn't do a ton of research, but the research I did do, and then I think it was DePoets did a review of the 9800X 3D, and it really sold me on it. But it's just got massive performance gains over a lot of the competing chips. So went with the 9800X 3D, and then obviously the 5090. Not only for gaming and stuff, because honestly the 4090 and even the 3090 still crushes games. It was primarily though the 5090 will help out with 3D work and rendering and what have you. And it will play Pong really well. That's true. Shimpa says, does anyone know what time NVIDIA usually drops a release? I mean, I assume it's on the morning of the 30th is when the embargo will lift on selling them. So I think the trick will be if you're able to get either first in line to grab one, or if you or if there's any sort of lottery systems at some of your stores, or perhaps pre-orders programs or whatever. I think the 5090 might be a little easier to get than the 5080, just because of the cost. There's a pretty big jump from the 5080 to 5090. I think you go from $1,000 to $2,000. So just a heads up on that. Pre-orders or stock reserve anywhere? I haven't seen any, bingo. I've been keeping an eye out, but have not seen any. But anyways, what are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about, let me get, again, like, as I've all warned you, might have some window issues today as I kind of get this new machine set up for what we're doing. But what we are doing today is we're going to be talking about what is coming in 2025, right? We're going to be speculating here. We'll probably be referencing these images a lot. We'll be referencing some gameplay announcements and stuff, and some of the stuff that Star Citizen has been, some of the developers have been talking about, especially Chris from the letter from the chairman late last year regarding their plans for Star Citizen in 2025. But before we get to that, I did want to talk a little bit about Starjump. We are working on things, and is currently working on a project, and you'll be hearing more about that soon. One of the big things I've been working on is rebranding Starjump. So Starjump's going to have some new kind of visuals, and I will kind of show you what that looks like now, so you're all aware when you see it. You're not surprised when you see it. Let's see here. Let me bring some of that stuff over. Nothing major, but just some new visuals. The logo changed a little bit. So, for example, let me switch over. So this is our old logo. You see it on all of our stuff. It's on streams. It's integrated into logos. It's on all of our shows. It's on YouTube. It's on pretty much anything Starjump related. I'm updating it now, so it's going to look more like this. It's a little thicker, a little bit more readable, got a little bit more design elements kind of going into the star. The idea was to make it readable at smaller size. Which it is a little bit more readable at smaller size. This is then migrating over and will affect all of our future merch. All of our show logos are going to update. We're going to, I think we're planning on doing a little bit of a refresh for Fleet Viewer. It'll receive the new logos, et cetera, et cetera. If some of you have been wondering, or been putting things in Fleet Viewer suggestions and been curious where those updates were, or where when they were going to happen, they're going to happen when we get through some of this rebranding stuff. That's kind of the idea there, that we can just kind of push all the updates when we can. I see VMXEO in chat. Obviously, we do have some StarFab updates we will need to do once StarFab is finished being updated. So once that happens, you will see some ships in Fleet Viewer get updates, obviously. Things like Starlancer, Zeus, the Polaris needs a new update. Just any of the stuff that's out. Obviously, we tried to get what we could in as best we could using the old school Cinema 4D method, but sounds like VMXEO is saying so close to being done, which is great to hear. I know the StarFab team has been working really hard on getting the software updated. So once that is updated, we'll slowly start kind of getting through our backlog of like the last 6 months or so, just re-rendering some of those ships so that they look their best. That being said, trying to think if there's anything else that went on. Seth Speed Sub says, any interiors coming? No, but there is. I can show you one thing. Let me pull it up. There's not interiors coming, but I can tell you that one thing me and VMXEO really want to be able to do is that on at least large ships, so maybe ships are like 125 meters and up, something like that, so sort of like Carrack sized and up. I think ultimately we would love to do some cutaway renders for Fleet Viewer, especially for like certain view angles. I don't know. We'll always be able to hold to that. Obviously, I'm trying to find, but it's something we want to do. I can show you, for example. Let me switch over. So, for example, we do have cutaway renders of ships like the Idris, etc. We do want to bring some of those cutaways in. That way you could look at, so for example, you could pull up like the hangar cutaway and then place ships down here to sort of see, oh, what's going to fit and all that kind of stuff. So just remember though that the cutaway renders, I mean, they're not easy to set up. VMXEO does them, on his kind of on his own time, and we'll probably be a little bit strategic about which ships we decide to do. If I had to guess, though, it would be for ships that have a reason to see the cutaway, right? So probably need to be big ships 100, like I said, 125 meters and up, and especially ships that are large that have like hangars and stuff like that, because I could see people wanting to try out fitting things, right? And it just sort of depends on if the ship is like easy to do cutaways for, all right? And that's something that's going to unfortunately fall to poor VMXEO to work through. But if we can do it on certain ships, we will do it. It's the same thing on certain landed states. There's certain ships that we do landed states for, and certain ships we would like to do landed states for. We generally only do it for ships that the landed state drastically changes the overall dimension of the ship, and you want to be able to have that ability to kind of see where it fits and where it sits and stuff. Again, it's not easy to do. I would actually say the landed states are probably even harder to do because of the way the rigging and stuff is not translated over into StarFab. Just one of the limitations, and it's a challenge. It's challenging work. So we just have to kind of figure out where it's best for us to put our time and effort into. So, anyways, I mean, I think you could be sure that obviously the Idris, I want to get those cutaways in. I don't think we have them in yet, but I'll get those in, and then I would say ships like the Kraken, the Javelin, possibly the Polaris. Those would all be like ships we would want to get some cutaways, or at least like a top-down cutaway. At the very least, a top-down cutaway, I think, is something we'd love to do. It gets a little tricky, though, too, because some of the ships are multi-level, right? So the Polaris has 2 levels to it. And, you just have to kind of look, like, how easy is it to do the cutaway of both levels and all that kind of stuff? Does lighting get screwed up? Does this get screwed up? Do textures get screwed up, etc.? So one thing I do know that we want to do, and this will lead in a little bit to our conversation today about the ships that possibly are coming in 2025, is that when base building eventually comes down, through production and into our hands, I know there is a desire by both me and VMXEO to allow some level of base building manipulation in Fleet Viewer, where maybe it's only top down. I don't know. We haven't had any of these discussions yet. It just sort of depends on how the assets are in the game files. But I know we would both love to have the base building modular sections in Fleet Viewer so that you could kind of play with them and sort of like get layouts of your bases done. It's complicated. It's something we want to do. It really just sort of depends a little bit on CIG, where they net with the files and how they're built and how they're made up and how complicated all that is. Let's see here. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on. Again, thanks everyone for hanging out. Got a pretty good crowd already stepping in. 84 over on YouTube and showing 33 on Twitch, so really appreciate that support. We're just going to jump right into it. Let me pull up a couple windows here. All right, what are we talking about? Like I said, we are talking about the ships coming in 2025 and kind of loosely, what do we expect coming in 2025? And I think we have to start first and foremost with the letter from the chairman. And by the way, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, any of that stuff, just throw them down in chat. Oh, let's see. Someone just, let me switch over. Stand by. Lazy Donuts just gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Lazy, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. Lazy Donuts always coming through with the assist. Appreciate that, Lazy. I hope you're well, man. Gave you the double Starjump salute for that one. Appreciate that. Actually, Lazy, you just reminded me. Before we get into anything, let's talk about last IAE's giveaways, the Starjump poster giveaways. Okay, all the other ships and stuff I did directly. The posters, though, gave away a number of Starjump posters, both the IAE and the all ship scale poster. I told all of you that it would be after IAE sometime that I was able to get those posters finished because I wanted to put all the new ships from IAE in. Then, when the Guardian didn't come out, I wanted to wait a little bit longer to get the Guardian in, okay? So all the ships have been released now. I have updated the posters. I have started processing posters as of last weekend, okay? I'm doing them in waves. It was first come, first serve. Those of you that are living in the U.S. will definitely get your posters first. Those of you that live outside of the U.S., yours will come. They're going to be slower because I have to use a different processing company to do the order. Instead of using Vistaprint, I have to go through Teespring, which is our merch store. They do international shippings on posters, so I have to get them through there. They are slow. I don't know how. I wish I could tell you better news. They just are slow. You know, they take like 2 weeks to process the damn poster and print it, and then they take another 2 or 3, 4 weeks to ship the damn thing. So it just is what it is. I apologize about that, but you will get them. I have everyone written down. I have all the posters processing and all that kind of good stuff. Also, real quick, before we move on to today's topic, if you are thinking of joining Star Citizen, want to try it out, haven't tried it out yet, and you found this channel, I appreciate you finding this channel and sticking around with us. You can use my referral code up to the top when you start an account, and you can get some free credits and stuff like that. I am quite proud of the fact that I am a semi-known content creator and have probably the lowest amount of referrals. It's Star Citizen. I'm starting to carry that with pride now. I really am. So anyways, let's for real jump into the topic for today. We're talking about what's coming in 2025 ship-wise, and then again, that's going to affect some of the gameplay stuff. Let's start with the letter of the chairman. Chris Roberts made it very clear that what we're going to be seeing this year is a focus on playability, right, and stability. Playability and stability. I don't have the letter from the chairman up right in front of me right now, so if you think of anything I'm not from there, please call it out in chat. But ultimately, what I think the goal is at CIG is to get the game in a playable state for 2 primary reasons. One is they want to get the game in a playable state because now that we have server meshing in with 4.0, you know, the static server meshing sort of version 1, they want to sort of get that hardened. They want to get that ship really plugged up and sailing right. And I think that's going to give them further information. When they get that real solid, that'll give them further information on how they can optimize the mesh, on their journey towards dynamic meshing, if not maybe moving into dynamic meshing even sooner, but also to figure out sort of how far they can push that technology and whatnot. So it's going to give them a better runway for figuring out the shape that Star Citizen 1.0 will take and what they can start officially targeting, right? Because at some point for Star Citizen 1.0, if they don't already have this, they're going to have to start getting some metrics for like what the expectation for player counts and stuff like that is. The reason why they got to figure out all that is they got to know how many players are around, because they're going to have to sort of balance gameplay systems, balance the economy and stuff, right? So, no, Draco, I didn't say dynamic server meshing this year. I just mean that I think they want to get to it sooner rather than later, because I can't remember the source, so I apologize, but I do know that Balt, or Benoit over at Turbulent, and who's now the chief technology officer, I believe, at CIG, has stated that in some ways dynamic server meshing is more straightforward and they wouldn't have to deal with as many issues as they're currently dealing with. So I think they want to move in there. I think they almost prefer to go dynamic sooner because there's almost maybe less, issues they're going to have to deal with it. I think that, static server meshing was great for just getting it out, proving some of the technology and stuff. But I do think they want to move from everything I've heard. They do want to kind of move into dynamic as soon as possible, without screwing everything up. So that's one reason. What's the other reason they want to get stability and playability up? Well, this comes down to Squadron 42. We know Squadron 42 comes out next year. As of January 2025, it's coming out next year, 2026. We know that. Now, we don't know which month, but as many of you know, I work in marketing, and I can tell you right now, they're going to want at least, I would think they would want at least 8 months of marketing lead time on Squadron 42's release. I could be being a bit stingy. They may want 12 months, but they're going to kind of be walking a little bit of a weird tightrope, because they know the game's been delayed many, many times. So they don't want to get out there too early and say, oh, the game's 12 months away, right? But they need to get out there early enough and start seeding it that they can build, that they can get pre-orders in place. They can build game packages for sale. And I don't mean like the game packages we buy, but, like when you buy like a game off Steam, you can get the regular version, you can get the premium version, you can get the Ultra Gold Premium Diamond Edition, all that kind of stuff. They're getting all that figured out. Trailers figured out, some sort of probably release of it, all this stuff, right? So they need lead time to do that. I think minimum 6 months, but I think that's real dangerous. I think they're looking at like an 8-month to 12-month timeline. So very soon, I think they're going to start thinking about the Squadron 42 marketing ramp and or start implementing it. They're already thinking about it. But part of that marketing campaign, whether they like it or not, part of that marketing campaign is Star Citizen, and if it's playable, right? Because if Star Citizen is not playable, how are you going to be advertising another game you're making and trying to get people hyped for it when the game you have out already is not playable and is not a good experience, right? Even though it's alpha, that doesn't matter. They promote it as if it's a live game at this point. So that's something to think about, right? They need to harden Star Citizen. They need to make it good, playable, at least playable and stable, so that when they do start talking about Squadron 42, every single article that talks about Squadron 42's impending release doesn't reference how unplayable Star Citizen is. Okay. That's just a bad way to go into a major product launch like Squadron 42. You don't want to go into that having the baggage on your back of an unplayable game. So I think that's, whether the intent is there or not, they need to get Star Citizen in a very playable place. Now, I'll tell you, I logged in the other day during the middle of the day. It was off-peak hours. I had a very, very smooth experience in 4.0. Everything worked great. I was messing around with my settings a little bit, and I tweaked a few settings, but regardless, it was running like butter. That was off peak hours. I haven't played 4.0 in peak hours yet. May have to do that soon. But regardless, um, it's doable. You know, they've got something there. They just need to harden it. That's all they need to do. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and talk about, based off that letter of the chairman, based off we know that optimization, stability, and stuff is kind of the goal. What are we looking at in terms of gameplay? Well, I think first and foremost, the major thing we're going to get, that we know we're going to get this year, is going to be the engineering gameplay. Okay, so that's definitely coming. I think that some of our from a ship perspective, what does that mean? Well, it means that a lot of the ships that we already have are going to be all new again. Okay, so the Carrack, and I'm talking larger ships here, right? Everything from maybe Connie up. So the Carrack, Hammerhead, Polaris, Corsair, Connie's, all those that you would have multiple players in, I think are going to start to see a significant difference in the way they play. But in an exciting way, it also opens up a lot of options for maybe those ships, being able to be tuned and tweaked and perform better and stuff like that, because we've always kind of used them at their base stat with the component as is. But hopefully, along with engineering and stuff, we have the ability to do some of that tweaking more than we can now at 4.0 with some of those systems that came into the game. And we'll see what that looks like. But either way, I do think ships are going to feel different. They're going to feel new. They're going to feel interesting. So right off the bat, that's cool, right? Let's talk about, though, our first ship that I want to talk about. And it's not a ship, actually. We're going to talk about this thing, okay? We're going to talk about the Argos CSV-FM. Right here, we're seeing the transmission page for the SM, which is the supply module. This is going to factor in real quick to all of our base building ships here, and we'll talk about the Starlancer build and the Pioneer. So we know these ships were pretty much all shown in the what's going into production the next 12 months video that CIG played at CitizenCon, or is it CitizenCon? Yeah, CitizenCon. And again, it's important to note, I have seen people make this mistake a few times. It's important to note that CIG did not say that those ships will be done in the next 12 months. They said that they're going into production in the next 12 months, right? And if you were watching, let me go back to that real quick. Sorry, I'm still dealing with some of my windows being all over the place. If I go back to this, you'll know that they had all these ships on display, right? We had the Starlancer, we had the CSV FM, FM, and ultimately they also showed the Pioneer. Okay, so we know that they're all going into production the next 12 months. We also can take the cue from what John Crew said, in that the Pioneer will not be available day one when base building reaches the PU, which is to be expected. Going off some additional stuff I've heard, 100%, I have heard that base building is coming in 2025. I've been hearing that for a while now, actually. I'm not saying it will. Okay, I'm not CIG's cheerleader here. But I have heard from multiple sources, both inside the studio and really close to the studio, that the goal is for base building to come out in 2025. Okay. I don't know if it's the first half of the year, second half of the year, I have no clue. But I do know it's very all hands on deck when it comes to Star Citizen to getting base building in. But base building ties back into some other things. So that's why I brought up engineering just a minute ago. One of the core components with base building is engineering gameplay. That's why I brought that up just a second ago. If you were wondering why I brought it up and then moved right off of it, engineering gameplay is going to tie very closely into base building. It's how we're going to maintain our bases, even more so than our ships. Our ships we sort of maintain. Hey, Starlet, hope you're well. Our ships we maintain so that we can get from point A to point B. Our bases we're going to maintain so that they keep creating output, right? The output may be resources for further development. It may be resources for UEC, all that kind of stuff. So in that regard, engineering gameplay is very important to base building. So I'm really hoping we see that engineering gameplay come to ships in like the first or second quarter of this year, because that will give us a little bit of an idea that, okay, it's still on track to come out with base building version 1, right? Because I do not think they're going to release base building without resource management for bases, right? For the building modules, and primarily because I think it's a core component of the modules. So the next thing, they're not going to release base building despite what tier they release it as. So let's say they release it at like a tier 0. Oh, and there's Ender. Hope you're well. Ender, did I miss your chat earlier? Sorry, buddy. If you did message me, I apologize. I may have missed it. I got that eye blindness, attention to detail. Yeah. Ender and Starla and VMXEO are in chat. Glad you all were able to show up. Thanks for hanging out. But with base building, 100% is going to bring on the initial base building ships, right? So CSV FM, the fabrication module, we're going to get that little hover trolley, which, chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Which, tell me if I'm wrong, but that hover trolley, base building hover trolley, the small one, that hasn't been named yet, I don't think. Does anyone know the name of that? I don't think it's been named. But we'll get that. We'll get the Argo CSV FM. Maybe those are the first two that we get with base building, right? But I definitely think those two are coming this year, those two things. So if you're wondering from a base building perspective, what we're going to get in 2025, I think Argo CSV FM and the hover trolley. Okay. I think those are guarantees if base building stays on track. If base building slips to 2026, then we will not get those ships. I think it was very telling that CIG did not offer this Argo CSV FM or the Starlancer build or that hover trolley for pre-order. And actually, I have to take my hat off to CIG for that. I think CIG does take a lot of smoke sometimes for just putting all kinds of crap out there for pre-order and then never releasing the ship for 10 years or whatever. If any of you have in chat have ever had that issue, Rec Dad, thank you for that follow. Sending the javelin overhead. Appreciate you. Salute to you. If any of you have ever had that issue where you're like, I don't like the fact that CIG puts out a ship for pre-order and then we wait 10 years for it, then you should be very happy with what CIG has done here. Sorry, everyone. My dog being a dog. You should be very happy what CIG is doing here. They held off. They could have put those ships out for pre-order and people would have bought all of them. I'm telling you. And then what I mean, there's Starlancer build, CSV FM, and that hover trolley. They could have put them for pre-order. People would have bought them all day long. But they didn't. They held off. I think that was a smart decision. I think that was, to me, it was a sign that CIG was still scoping out those ships a bit and that they weren't totally nailed down. I think that the broad stroke stuff is mostly there. Like they're like, okay, the CSV FM, yeah, it's going to have 2 medium drones, right? But I think they're still figuring out what its containment and all that stuff is. So even some of the numbers they did show us, I think could change. But I'll say it now, if base building comes out in 2025, we will get the Argo CSV FM and the hover trolley builder thing out as purchasable items. I'm convinced of that. Okay. And again, all my sources, both good and bad, have said base building 2025. At least some version of it. Okay. Maybe it's literally 5 buildings that you can set down and that's it. But some version of base building is coming in 2025, is what I've been told. Again, that could slip. How does that then affect the? Let's go ahead and talk about the Starlancer build, the BLD, since we're talking about base building. Draco says, think it will in small ships still. Am I talking about the hover trolley? Do I think it will fit in like medium ships? And I think it will. I think that's the entire point of it, actually. Both the hover, I could see the hover trolley actually getting even a little bit smaller. Hold on a second, everyone. My puppy wants to sit on my lap here while we talk Star Citizen, so we're going to let her do that. I think the entire point of, oops, hold on. I think the entire point of the change in the medium builder was directly related to CIG not wanting base building tied behind $500 ships. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't think I have it up here. Let me check if I have it. Let's see here. Bear with me, everybody. I know I have it somewhere. I have it somewhere here. Maybe I don't have it. We'll see. Nope, I don't have it. I don't have it up available here to grab. But regardless, there is. You probably saw one of the previous slides from the CitizenCon from 2023, but CIG showed off. It was a C2 Hercules, and out of it was driving a almost like an Anvil Ballista type vehicle, and it was carrying kind of a large base building trailer. I don't think CIG is doing that at all anymore. I think the Argo CSV FM took the place of that. Okay. The reason they didn't want to do that, in my opinion, is that by making medium base building tied to a ballista-sized ground vehicle, they all but guaranteed you needed to own a $500 Hercules to transport that to the ground to build the base. So, and believe me, as more people would have started to figure that out, they would have started getting pretty salty about it, because you would have essentially tied base building behind a pretty big paywall. $100, $200 or whatever it would have been for the ballista ground vehicle, and then the $400 something for the C2 Hercules or whatever other ship you're using to bring it to the surface. They didn't want to do that. That's why we're getting the Argo CSV FM, and again, I think we should all be happy about that, because this can fit into a cutlass. So now the paywall for building that small or that medium-sized base is only the cost of the FM and the cost of maybe a cutlass, right? So your paywall just dropped a lot. With the hover trolley, I do think the hover trolley will fit in even smaller ships. I think you're going to be able to pack the hover trolley into smaller ships. I think that's why we didn't get a pre-order for that yet, because I do think they haven't even landed on the final scale for that. They may want to try. They may be trying to make it as small as possible. Again, I don't think they're going to want to paywall base building beyond the base building ships too much. But anyways, let's talk about the Starlancer build real quick. Obviously, this is the original pre-order page for the Starlancer Max and the Starlancer TAC. We're going to talk about the TAC here in a minute too, but let's just talk about the Starlancer build. Starlancer build comes with 4 large drones. Yep, 4 large drones. It's meant to build large bases and under. Let's see here. Execute. I don't know. I don't think it's that. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm speculating. But I did hear a little bit of chatter about the whole paywall thing, or not paywall, that's the wrong way of saying it, and that bases being tied behind too many ships you need to complete the loop, right? Because if you have that big ballista with the base building component on it, you still need more than that to build the base, right? You're still going to need to transport that vehicle to bases, all that kind of stuff. I know that some people see. Yeah. So John says it. So yeah, it is an Atlas chassis, but we've seen the Atlas chassis used for many things. As a matter of fact, most of the time, what it's used for is combat vehicles of some sort. Um, so it's. I mean, you could be right. I mean, again, I do not have any definitive answer on this, but I don't. I personally, I think it's very interesting that we have these Argo CSVs. They were a surprise a little bit in terms of their size and shape, and I don't think that was an accident. I think it's not to say that they won't come out with that bigger ground vehicle that can build bases, but if they do, I think it would have maybe two large drones in it instead of the mediums. I didn't. I just don't think they wanted to lock medium bases behind $500 vehicle transport ships like the Liberator and the Hercules. But again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Military base builder is civilian. Let me know what you mean. But anyways, Starlancer build. I think that the Starlancer build is sort of all dependent on if we're going to get large base building, large scale base building. I think obviously the first version of base building more than likely is going to be small and medium, and then large will come a little bit after that. And then ultimately extra large will be a considerable amount of time after that. I think they'll use small and medium to, again, go back to our original conversation on engineering and resource management. I think the small and medium bases are going to be used to sort of test the whole resource management with base building, like test that whole kind of thing. And once that's good, once it seems like it works good and is somewhat balanced, they'll then, scale up from there, right? But I think that puts the Starlancer build in a little bit of a precarious place because CIG could do one of two things. If large base building is coming out in 2025, which I'm not convinced of, but if it was, then obviously we'll get the Starlancer build with that because it's the only ship to build large bases other than the Pioneer. However, they still may make the Starlancer build able to be pre-ordered. Excuse me. They still may make it able to be pre-ordered, and they may do that when small and medium base building comes online. And what I mean by that is when they know base building's in a good place and they're coming out with it to the PU and the CSV FM and the hover trolley are both going flight ready, drive ready, whatever. They still may put the build up for pre-order at that time. It may not be flight ready, but it'll be available to be used. Execute says, Execute, I hope you're well, buddy. Military versus civilian. Sorry, on the phone. I have fat fingers. Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that. Maybe there is a difference between military and civilian. Obviously, I think CIG will do that, especially because I could see there being civilian and military type structures that can be built. CIG hasn't talked about any of that, but that's definitely something I see them doing. So I think that's a great point. Look, here's the thing. I guarantee you there's going to be more base building vehicles and ships. 100%. That's going to happen. With as important as base building is to the entire point of the game, they're going to have more than just the CSVFM, the build, and the Pioneer. 100% they're going to have more. We've already been told we are eventually going to get the Galaxy with its base building module and stuff like that. I think there's plenty of room in there for that ballista vehicle to come online as a base building vehicle. 100%. I mean, there's plenty of room for it. It's just I don't think for the initial release they want. I think for the initial release of base building, they didn't want that to be the only way you could build medium bases, because right away that locks you behind however much that ballista vehicle is going to cost, which we already know they're pretty expensive though. So what is it, $150, $200, something like that. Then add on top of that the $400 some odd dollars you're going to need for a Hercules to carry that thing to the surface. So that's my thinking there. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, I am speculating a little bit on that. I have heard some chatter from some people that would be in the know, but it's not any information that'd be like, yep, that's 100% the reason. That's why they did it. It's more just like I'm inferring some things they said. Here's essentially what I was told. that base building, this is what I was told. And Ender, if Ender's still in chat, Ender can back me up on this because I actually told him this like over a year ago. Actually, it was almost a year and a half ago. I was told that base building is going to be one of the core gameplay loops of Star Citizen. It was going to be, and that blueprints were going to be one of the blueprints and base building crafting are like the entire point of the game. That's what I was told. I was also told that the lower levels of that, so small and medium, they want to be very accessible to people, right? They want you to be able to like get into them quickly and not have to work for 6 months just to build a medium home, right? That's what I was told. I'm inferring from that that they want medium base building vehicles or ships to be accessible. Okay, that's why I think the Argo CSV is so cheap as well. And why I think it's going to be, and why it can fit in the back of like a Cutlass, because CIG wants it to. That's the entire point. So anyway, Starlancer build. I think we'll get it for pre-order when base building goes live. It may not be flight ready, but we'll get it for pre-order. I think it's still 50-50 on if the build will go flight ready in 2025. It depends on how fast they progress with base building. I'm a little bit suspect, though, that we're going to get large base building in 2025, simply because I think CIG does want to put a lot of that focus on what CR said, which was stability and playability. And again, I think they're doing that because they want Star Citizen to be in a good, solid place before they start doing the marketing campaign for Squadron 42. Because the last thing you want to be doing is advertising Squadron 42 when you got a game called Star Citizen that's not unplayable. No one's going to buy. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence in Squadron, right? Okay, let's move along a little bit further. Let's talk about another ship that is an interesting option for 2025, and that is the Apollo. So for those of you that don't know, the RSI Apollo was shown off in the ship reveal from CitizenCon. This is it right here. There are two versions of the Apollo, the medevac and the triage. It is a medical ship. Yeah, exactly right. Sorry, Ender, I just saw that. Yeah, we began building our org around the entire concept of base building, crafting, and that level of industrial gameplay. And again, I was told that like a year and a half ago. And so for a long time now, we've actually been planning our entire guild or org around it. So it didn't shock me when we saw some of the stuff at CitizenCon this past year in 2024 and that focus on base building. It really, I kind of immediately went, oh, yep, okay, everything's kind of coming to fruition. And also when we saw how important crafting was going to be, blueprints were going to be, when Richard Tyre showed off that gameplay loop for Star Citizen 1.0 and how you would get that military ship blueprint, again, it all made sense. By the way, everyone, I do know, I haven't watched it yet. Sorry, Execute. It's on my list to watch. But I do know InfoRunners just put out a video. Subject matter is blueprints, I believe. So for those of you interested in crafting, base building, blueprints, all that stuff, go give that a watch over on InfoRunners channel. Obviously, InfoRunners does amazing content. So yeah, let's get back to the Apollo. This is a medium ship. It's a medium-sized dedicated medical ship from RSI. There are two variants, the triage and the medevac. Subtle differences between the two. I believe the medevac, I actually forget the differences between the two, but let's pull it up. Let's see here. Let's go down. Let's check out the brochure. Okay. All right, so let's go to, it is supposed to have this drone, by the way. I think it's interesting that we actually saw we saw some white box development of the Apollo. I think it was early last year. And I kept thinking, oh, we're going to see the Apollo soon. We're going to see the Apollo soon. And then I think I was reminded by Execute, actually, that there is a drone that sort of plays into the Apollo. And here it is. It's the Shepard MedLift drone. It's sort of like a hover gurney and hover stretcher, whatever you want to call it. And it's very possible, obviously with base building, we do know that drones are coming into Star Citizen in some sort of way, even with the small and medium level base building. We're going to have base building drones. So I'm real excited to hear CIG start talking about that. But maybe that's sort of why the Apollo has been taking its sweet time. We don't know, but maybe they were kind of waiting on drone tech to get going here. Hey, GearCon, thank you for cheering those 1,000 biddies. Appreciate that. Hope you're well, man. I hope you're well, GearCon. But maybe that's a primary reason why the Apollo has just sort of been taking its time through development, because they're still planning on coming out with the Shepard medlift drone with the Apollo. That'd be a really cool thing to package with the ship, just to make it feel a little bit more special than just a larger C8R. So I think that's really cool. But yes, there are two versions of the ship. There is the triage, which has, again, I think both of them have kind of configurable interiors. Again, well, CIG is going to need to address that if the Apollo is coming, although they could release it with just sort of a base layout. The medevac, though, is sort of the limited edition version, and it, let's see here, it comes with a slightly different paint job, obviously. I think it has heavier armor, and chat can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it has a little bit more armor, and it might have the ability to carry one additional size 1 medical or tier 1 medical bed. Let me know. Arielus78 says medical gameplay can't be just rescue soldier in combat. There needs to also be a save granny from stroke gameplay, or Timmy from Nasty Fault. So, I think that's a great point. Let's talk about that for a second. Wolf Britzer says it has armor and missiles. Okay, thanks, Wolf. Appreciate it. Let's talk about what. Sorry, I hope I said your name right, Arielus78. Let's talk about that for a minute. So I 100% agree with you. We need medical missions to support medical gameplay beyond just emergent gameplay where a player puts out a beacon. But also, I do think, again, and I really do think base building is going to be the anchor for a lot of gameplay loops. When people are out base building on far reaches, far-flung moons and whatever, they're going to be far away from landing zones or whatever. I see medical gameplay becoming something that becomes vitally important, even just for people that aren't dealing with combat stuff. I see medical being a big part of like industrial gameplay, because I think the industrial gameplay is typically going to be done in places that are either targets for combat or just inherently dangerous, right? They may be on planetary surfaces that have hostile environmental conditions. Also, just the nature of industrial gameplay, I think, is going to be a little bit dangerous. For example, if you're mining or what have you, and you have a rock blow up and your ship gets damaged and you're hurt, etc. I think industrial gameplay is going to have its fair share of dangers. So I think medical is going to start playing into that. But again, NPC driven medical missions, all that stuff, I think we need to have. I don't think we need to have that for the Apollo to come into the game, but I do think that it would be nice to have that. It'd be nice for the people that want to focus on medical work to be able to do something outside of just emergent medical beacons being dropped, right? And Wolf, yeah, so Wolf says, and hopefully beacons will stop being traps. Again, that goes back to the whole personal rating thing, reputation thing. So I'll be doing a show on that soon. So the Apollo, do I think it's coming for 2025? I do think it's coming for 2025. I think the ship has been making its way through the development pipeline. I have not seen or heard anything of it beyond what you all have, and beyond that very early white box preview we got on Inside Star Citizen. And again, that was probably a little bit over. I would say a little bit under a year ago. We got that. It was a long time ago. But I do think the Apollo is coming. I don't think there's any big mysteries with this ship that haven't already been solved in the game beyond the drone, the Shepard drone. And there still isn't really a reason why the Shepard drone should hold up the release of this ship. I think hopefully they will release it in conjunction, but I don't think that should hold up the release of this ship. I'm also not one of those people. There's a lot of people out there that say, oh, they should not release a ship until the game plays out. I personally disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with it is that I want them to get any and all ships out as quickly as possible. And the reason I want them to do that is because that gives us more time to test them. Remember, this is an alpha. We're not playing the real game. So, for example, I'm fine that the Carrack is in the game, but is not but there's no exploration gameplay out there because I want to test the Carrack. Okay, we've already found that the Carrack has a lot of little issues, and maybe with the Carrack being in game this long, we can find more of those issues and suss them out before 1.0 comes out. So personally, I'm against like, oh, well, we got to have bounty hunting in before the bounty hunting module can come out for the Galaxy or before we put the Galaxy in. I personally, I disagree with that. Just release the Galaxy. Let us test it. Let us run it through its paces, even though if its gameplay is not available yet. I think that was actually something that the Reclaimer has shown us, for example. The Reclaimer's been in the game for a long time. We've seen lots of issues with it as the game has been updated. Even though salvaging came on and sort of reinvigorated the entire reason for owning a Reclaimer, the Reclaimers received much more testing than just the time period that salvage has been out, right? Now, I say that, I don't mean to say that CIG should waste their time on building ships that have zero gameplay, available to them. I'm just saying that if they do have one in the hopper, and let's say its gameplay function or one aspect of it, like drone functionality or something, is delayed, I don't think that should hold up the release of the ship. I just get it out. Let's test it. Let's just get in there and do it, right? So 2 versions of the ship, Triage, Medevac. Again, I think if these do come out in 2025, we'll get both versions. I would put it at about an 85% chance we're getting the Apollo this year. 85% chance. I feel pretty good about it. All right, let's keep going down. Again, we're talking about what's coming in 2025, what you can kind of bet the farm on is coming. We talked about the Argo CSV FM and the hover trolley. I think those are guarantees for 2025 if base building is coming out. Dumias, thank you for that follow. Appreciate you. And I think the Starlancer build will probably be pre-orderable when base building version 1 goes online. It may not be flight ready yet because they may not have support for large base building in. Kelrath, I agree with you. The old girl does need a lot of work. I really hope CIG does focus or kind of turn back around to the Reclaimer soon and give it the love it needs. It's really a fun ship. If none of you have done any salvaging with a group in the Reclaimer, it is a lot of fun. I had no interest in the Reclaimer until we did a group Reclaimer mission. I was doing salvage. I think it was me, VMXCO, Ender's wife, Driz. We had a blast. It was awesome. There's so many cool moments and it wasn't like action packed. It was just fun. We're all working for a big goal. The payout was huge, so it felt worth it. There was cool moments where, we're inside the cockpit or the bridge of the Reclaimer looking out on the massive ship we're salvaging, and one of us had to go outside the ship so you see them EVAing over. It just was a cool moment where it felt like a lot of the Star Citizen systems were kind of coming together and gelling. So, all right. And again, we're talking about known ships here. We are going to circle back to some of the unknown ships here in just a minute, okay? Kelras says, I'd rather wait, as X says, for drones to come in, Maelstrom, armor, etc., in order to get the best ship. Yeah, I mean, look, execute's not wrong. The longer ship waits to be done, the better it's going to be. We've already seen that. The Polaris all but proved that, right? I'm just simply saying that where I'm going with this is, let's say they build a ship, let's say they're working on a ship with the intention of launching it alongside some of its gameplay loops, right? For example, let's say internally they're planning for bounty hunting V2 and refinery gameplay, ship-based refinery gameplay to sort of be done Q2 of 2025. Let's say that's the planning. So let's say the CIG ship teams are like, oh, okay, knowing that those are coming online and knowing that cargo gameplay is already online, we're going to make sure the Galaxy is ready for Q2 because the Galaxy will be able to utilize cargo gameplay, refinery gameplay, and bounty hunting gameplay, right? Or whatever. Again, I'm just talking here. Or medical gameplay, whatever the case may be. But let's say those gameplay loops slip or fall back a few months, or maybe they fall back an entire year. But let's say the Galaxy's mostly done as a ship. I would rather them release the Galaxy and let us test it for that year and work out issues, instead of holding the ship on some back burner, for the year or two that it takes some of those gameplays. Because gameplay systems, I mean, they adjust their priority all the time. We've seen that, and I think that's affects ships pretty heavily. So, anyways, we are going to talk about some of those unknown ships, everyone, but we're going to keep moving on down. Let's talk about the next one, and that is the RSI. Oops, let me get back to it here. That is the RSI Perseus. Now we do know the Perseus is in development. They showed us that last year as well. I think we can all but confirm that not only is this in development, or sorry, not only is it going into development in the next 12 months, but it's in development, right? Being worked on now. If I had to guess, some of that is based off things such as the model here looking like it's actually had some development work done to it, but also the fact that they wrapped the Polaris. The Polaris looks great. They just need to carry over some of those design ethos into the Perseus. Again, both military ships. They are from different time periods, but oops, sorry everyone. But still military ships, so I think they can lean on the development work that they did for the Perseus to kind of make up get ground made up on the Polaris a little quicker. Oops, sorry everyone, just a second. Dog being dog. Okay. Okay, so Mike says, I think the interior of the Polaris is pretty boring. It needs more color contrast and a lot more details. Everything other than engineering is very plain. I actually agree with you, Mike. And I think CIG agrees. They have said that they are working on a decal pass for the interior to dress it up a bit. I think they realize that it's missing a little something inside. They told us the same with the captain's room. They did get the captain's room done and implemented, obviously, if you've been in your Polaris anytime recently. But they also said they were going to do a decal in kind of like a palm decal pass for the interior. So I definitely think that's coming. I wouldn't worry. So yeah, Perseus, definitely in development. I think this one's coming sooner rather than later. My guess for the Perseus, and this isn't any official information. I didn't hear it from a developer or anything, but my guess for the Perseus is we're going to get the Perseus at IAE, or sorry, Invictus. I think we're going to get the Perseus at Invictus. It'd be a fantastic ship to release during the UEE's big event. And I don't see anything that would hold that back. So yeah, that's my guess. I would put that also at probably like 85-90% probability that the Perseus comes at Invictus. I wish I had more information on its progress. However, I think this is one of the first ships we're going to get a progress report on when ISC starts back up. So I think we're going to get an update on a few ships, but I do think the Perseus is one of the ones we're going to get kind of like a first real update on. And I think the Perseus, or sorry, the Polaris, and the way they launched that, the way they showed it off at the events was a really cool way to kind of hype it up, get people excited for it, all that kind of good stuff. And it makes total sense that they would release it during Invictus, 100%. Not much more to talk about with this one. Again, if you're a Perseus fan, though, I would get excited. It's definitely your year. And again, you may not have to wait long. If it is in fact coming out at Invictus, which I think it is, then I would expect an ISC on this sooner rather than later. And I think the first ISC will probably be showing probably like some, if I had to guess, maybe a gray box work at this point. And then maybe some gray box work, and then maybe beginning of quarter two they're going to show us some Lot Zero exterior stuff. But it's very possible they could get this done for Invictus if they're pushing hard. Usually a ship this size would take them longer. But again, the ship team has grown, and I think just all signs point to them being able to push through the Perseus pretty quickly. And eh, one of two things is going to happen. Either it will go flight ready during Invictus, or at Invictus we will get the exterior model shown on the show, somehow in game, like they did the Polaris, with the ship coming out soon after that. But I really hope it goes flight ready. I do think there's a lot of shared assets between the two. CIG's even said that. They're both military ships, they both share assets. The only thing that is kind of a big difference between the two is that the Polaris is the newest RSI military ship, and the Polaris is, and the Perseus is one of the oldest RSI military ships. So I think there's 500-600 years between the two, or 400 years between the two. So I would expect there to be some interior differences, primarily on the bridge as well. The Polaris has those really sleek glass kind of uh, you know MFDs and all that. I could see the Polaris or the Perseus having more like hardened, like Aegis style setup. But anyways, yeah, I put that about 90% we'll get that this year. Perseus 2025. I think it'll actually be sooner rather than later towards Invictus. Okay, let's go on to the next ship here. We're going to talk about the Drake Ironclad. Couple of things about the Ironclad. We know that the Ironclad is in active production, like it is being worked on as we speak. When we saw the original concept art or concept reveal for the Ironclad, they showed off some concept model work, and they were moving the camera through it and all that stuff. If any of you remember that video, I think the video is called Ironclad is Rad. But that concept mesh, to me, not only did it look very thought out, but like as if they were kind of ahead of the game a little bit on development of the ship, but also they had very distinct areas already cordoned off for gameplay systems. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that they had like literally like engineering terminals marked off. They had all the large component bays marked off in engineering, all this kind of stuff. And that just signaled to me that, okay, they're thinking about this more than just a rough concept model. They are thinking about this mesh in terms of how it's going to tie into gameplay and stuff. So maybe, and I was taking a leap there, but maybe it's going into development. Now, I think if any of you have watched Execute's stream over on InfoRunners, I think we've heard enough from Ben Curtis and other people that they do really want to get to the Kraken. I think they're excited to move to the Kraken. They do want to do that. They've told us that the Ironclad is a stepping stone to the Kraken. So getting the Ironclad done seems like a no-brainer. There are two variants, the Assault and the regular. Again, no reason they have to release both, but I think they probably would. Maybe the Assault version wouldn't have its repair functionality in, but regardless, I think if it's in active development now, we could see the Ironclad here. I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. But what if the Ironclad was sold at Invictus as well? And again, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I'm just going to go out on a limb here. But what if the Ironclad was sold during Invictus as sort of a competitor to the UEE and Invictus events, celebratory events? What if Drake put on their own thing? Because again, they don't get invited to the military events. What if they put on their own thing and tried to upstage people with the Ironclad? I think that'd be really cool. I'd love for them to do that just from a lore reason. Yes, they do, North. They do. So they have their own event, and I think that would be really cool to see Drake either show off or sell DefenseCon. Thank you. It'd be cool if the Ironclad was at DefenseCon. So it's very possible we could have two ships that play in the same size range, 100, 125 meter size range for sale at Invictus. That could be a big deal. Two big ships going on sale like that from sort of the competing. Right. SC Mail member, thank you very much for that follow. Appreciate it. But that would be really cool to see Perseus and Ironclad kind of compete a little bit and go on sale together. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of the Ironclad. Most of you know that I'm a big Drake fan. And if you've watched any of my streams, so obviously I'm really looking forward. Hey, Victoria, I just saw you up in chat. I must have missed you earlier, Vic. I hope you're well, buddy. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you for your retweet, by the way, on the stream. But I could see the Ironclad. I could see both these ships being very popular, but there's a lot of crossover between this and the Kraken. Obviously, when the Kraken goes in development, people are going to go nuts. I saw someone say they showed the Kraken at Levski. I really think they're pushing it out. So the Kraken at Levski that you saw, BZ, was the cinematic model, which they have and have had for since 2018. It looks really good. It's super high detail. We do already have that. If you go to starjumpfleetviewer.com and spawn the Kraken, that's what you're seeing is that cinematic model. It's been in the game files. They probably will update it a little bit for the flight ready model, and obviously they still have to do the entire interior, but they have figured out a lot with the Kraken exterior. And it is a game ready model from what I've been told. It's like optimized and everything for the engine. But yes, 100% probability on, actually, I'm going to put the Perseus and the Ironclad. I'm going to put them both at 100% probability that we're getting them at 25, getting them in 2025. And I'm going to put that 75% probability that we get them in Invictus. That's my prediction. That is my prediction. Now, another option is that in Invictus, we could get the Starlancer TAC. Okay, that's another one we were talking. I said we were going to bring up earlier. The Starlancer TAC, the combat variant of the Starlancer, I could see us getting at Invictus on MISC Day. Okay, so I do see that being a possibility. Wolf Butcher says the Ironclad bridge looks RSI. Well, the funny thing is the Ironclad bridge is almost a direct port of the Kraken bridge. It's almost a direct lift. Only this one's a single level, and the Kraken is double level. So again, if you look at the Ironclad, there's actually a lot of parts and pieces that are shared by the Kraken. I've inspected the model quite a few times, and there's lots of little pieces scattered throughout that you will look at and go, "Oh, yep, that goes on the Kraken." So, okay, let's keep going. I wanted to talk about some of these other ones. Don't know what this is, but we're going to just, I do think it's combat. We see the guy with the gun here, so I do think it's combat related. We do see a dual turret up here. Again, we'll find out more about this. It's a ground vehicle, so I think high probability we'll get that in 2025. I would probably put it at 90%. Here is another ballista-based vehicle, got a large turret. This could be that base builder everyone's talking about, possibly. I don't know. I personally think it's an APC. Victoria says APC as well. I think it's an APC, another variant off that. I know they have one already in the Spartan, right? Maybe this is a different version of that. Maybe this is a large medical variant. I don't know. Maybe not with the big turret. I don't know what this is. It could be that base builder. I just don't think it is. They already have the Spartan. That's true. But I just, if it is a base builder, I think it's coming out later in the year. We already got these two, the Ghost and the Tracker. We already got those. We got the Medical Terrapin, which is what this is. So we did get that. The Mirai Guardian and the Guardian Key or Quai or Q or whatever it's called. We got that. I know a lot of people are really excited about those two ships. The Misk Fortune. We got a sneak peek image just the other day of an interior of a Misk ship. We think it's the Fortune. It's either that or it's like a hull B or something like that. But regardless, this I think is coming out very soon. I'm really predicting this may be like a Q1 ship. So Misk Fortune, I'm putting, and I believe, we believe it's a salvager. Sorry, yes, Wolf. We believe this is a salvager. I'm putting this at like 95% probability we get it in the first half of 2025. Okay, 95% probability. Um, don't know what this is. Me and Execute have talked at length at it. I do think it's highly likely this is a consolidated outland ship of some sort, medium sized. If this is a consolidated outland ship, I actually predict it probably being in the second half of the year. I put the probability of this thing coming out 2025 at like 50%. This one's pure speculation, but I'm thinking this is consolidated outland, and I'm thinking this is probably the second half of this year, second half of this year. So after June. Um, Primarily because I think CIG is taking some time to figure out the consolidated outland interior and exterior ship language for ships that are bigger than like a Nomad, right? So we'll and maybe more industrial focused than the Nomad. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's what I think. That's why I think it's a consolidated outland ship, is what I think. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We've gone over them in not only one of my streams, but also one of Info Runners. There's a few clues on the model that like hint towards it being consolidated outland. Doesn't mean it is. We could be wrong, but there's a couple of clues. Next thing is this interesting weird ship, Malibu. Salute to you. Hope you're well. I hope by the name that doesn't mean you're in Malibu. You know, thoughts to everyone. If you're in California, to those wildfires, those things are crazy. Hopefully, everyone is safe that's out there, that's part of the community, and of course, everyone else. But obviously, if you're part of the Starjump or Star Citizen community and out in that area battling those, or if you've lost your home or anything, sending positive thoughts to you and your family. Hopefully, everyone is hanging on. That is some crazy shit out there. I personally still think this is some sort of medium or heavy fighter, probably some sort of heavy fighter. I'm wondering, I still personally think it's like a heavy Drake fighter. I know Execute thinks it's possibly Mirai or Misk. So we'll see. I still am leaning towards Drake. Basically because the bridge here looks very Drake. You can see kind of the bridge window. It's a very odd looking ship, but I think this is some sort of Drake thing. I don't really know what. This is an odd one. I would put the probability at 50-50. I don't know if this is coming out anytime soon or what this is, so no information means I'm going to put it at 50-50. Obviously, we talked about the Apollo. Apollo, I think, is very high, 95% probably coming out this year. Starlancer TAC. Again, I think it's about 100% this year, and I think it's 75% coming out of Invictus. If this is the build, then I think the build is 100% going on pre-order this year, and 50-50 if it goes flight ready. It sort of depends on a few things. Perseus, you heard my prediction on that one. This is the Ironclad. You heard my prediction on that one. Now let's talk about the big one, the Pioneer. Okay, so we know the Pioneer is going in production. CIG have already stated that the Pioneer will not be ready for day one base building. Again, still very highly likely base building's coming out this year, at least a tier 0 version of it. So what does that mean? That means that this ship will not be coming along with that. However, we do know it's in production. I think the reason they wanted to get it in production should signal a little bit CIG's the importance they're placing on base building. I think they don't want it to be 5 years from now that we get extra large base building and space stations. I think they want to get those started testing sooner rather than later. So I think it's interesting that the Pioneer is going into production now. I think it's going to have a long development road, probably at least 1.5 years, 2 years, which is why it's in production now. I wouldn't expect to see this ship until 2026. So I put its 2025 appearance at 0%. But I do think it's a 2026 ship. I do think they want to get it out. They want to get it in our hands. By that time, a few things will already be in game that this ship needs. So like ground extractors that are in the landing gear, those will already be implemented on our bases. So that milestone will be crossed, right? The fabrication hangar, those will be in our medium and large bases by then. So it won't be too big of a deal to put them in a ship. As well as everything else a ship needs, the small crafting machines, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think this is a 2026 ship. And Citizen Chump says holiday 2026. I don't think that's a bad guess. I could definitely I could definitely see this being a holiday 2026 ship. Draco says, so they are actively building 3 large ships. I think that's very possible. I think that's very possible. 100% think the Perseus, the TAC, and the Ironclad, I do think those are all in development, like active development now, different stages of development. But again, we do know the ship team has grown quite a bit. Okay, we do know they've grown quite a bit. Go back. So yeah, I mean, I think 2025 is going to be an exciting year with the increase in the scale of the ship team. We do know that hopefully with that increased ship team numbers, I think they're up to, was it like 58 or something now? I do think that is going to ultimately translate into more throughput, right? They're going to be able to get more ships out. So it'll be interesting to see how 2025 shapes up, especially if a lot of the teams are focused on playability and stability, getting resource management in the game, and base building tier 0. That gives the ship teams a clear outline of the types of ships and stuff they need to get into the game. The cool thing, though, is for those of you that are not buying any new ships this year or don't have any ships coming this year to get excited about, a lot of the old ships are going to feel new again with resource management. And it's not just big ships. We've even seen ships as small as the Crusader Intrepid have engineering consoles in them. We're going to get fire, all that stuff. So all ships are going to get some level of revitalization and just in terms of the experience playing them, right? Okay, everyone, I hope you all had a good time today. It was nice getting back. Nice to see that my computer's actually working with the new setup. And I think, let's see, and you know, obviously Starjump's going to have a lot more content coming. We're slowly getting back to it. Ender has been working on a really cool project that I've been helping a little bit on, but he's been putting a lot of work into it. We'll be announcing more on that very soon. We do eventually want to get back to a Fleet Builders episode. I am planning a Starjump Station episode where we're going to talk about Star Citizen 1.0. I want to get VMXEO, Ender, maybe even Starlet on, and maybe even a guest. But we are going to do that. So we are getting back into it. Be patient with us. If you did win a Starjump IAE poster, again, those have been started processing last weekend and will be processing for the next week or two. And they get processed, they get printed, and they get shipped. Okay. So thank you for your patience on that. I really appreciate it. I am going to send you over to stand by. I want you, and hopefully you'll give this person some Starjump love. Gonna send you over to Bognagus. Cool dude, nice guy. Going to send you over there. I hope you all spread some Starjump love over there. It was really great seeing you. Thank you all for taking some time out of your day to hang out. Again, we're getting back to these Starjump shipyards. We're going to do these every Tuesday. Going to keep that cadence going. Everyone, thank you very much. Salute to you. Thank you all for hanging out. Please go spread some positive vibes to other channels and to other people in the Star Citizen community. Talk to you later. Bye.